What's going on, everybody? Rob here with a little video. We're gonna try to drywall and cover up. Look, there's buckshots. I don't know how the pictures were hung all the way over this wall. There's nails. I'm pulling so much nails out of this wall. It's unreal. So instead of just patching each one of these little things, I'm gonna put a square and patch this whole piece right here. But these are the hardest things to cover up right here. So right now, I'm just using a little razor blade and I'm trying to just cut them all smooth where they're not going to protrude through everything else. And as I'm doing this, I'm finding more nails, but it's all the way up there. That's probably, it's going to have to be a 2 foot by probably 3 foot drywall repair. So like it says, right now I'm just trying to cut out all this little, when you pull the nails out or pull the screws out and it roughs everything up, believe me, all that will stick and protrude when you fix the drywall. Some of it I'm just kind of tucking in the best I can. I'm going to put a sheet over this. You're going to see this. I'm going to put a big sheet over this, but if there's anything protruding out, I'm just going to break it off and then I'm going to put a 2 foot sheet over this and smooth it down. Okay, now I got a little sanding block. Trying to sand down whatever I can to make it all smooth before I even start. I might not even have to go this far. There's just one hole right there. See, there's waves already right here. Let's go get the sheet. Self-adhesive drywall repair sheet. This is a self-stick sheet that we're gonna put over here, and we gotta cut it down. Actually, it probably should fit perfect this way, and then we're gonna compound over that. All right, so the sheet fits this way, so you gotta find the edge to it. This is starting edge, and this is self-stick, so this is pretty. I love self-stick compound tape, self-stick everything. So this is gonna stick onto the wall. We gotta find out how high we need it. Okay, so you're going to cut around what you don't need. You're going to kind of cut around what you don't need, but that's the self-adhesive drywall repair tape. I want to cut this bottom off. Okay, so if you can see, I got it up. I'm going to cut the bottom. That was being in the road. That was harder to stretch out than I thought. So now you're going to use your razor blade and you're going to cut around what you don't need. This is the highest one, and there's none kind of in this area, so I'm going to do a oval around here. There's a lot down here, so I'm gonna do another oval around here, come straight across. There's nothing in here, so I'm gonna do the oval up here and an oval. So I'm gonna make a big try to pull these off with a razor, because these will kick your butt. So try to pull, if you got any end little things like that, like this is perfect. But try to pull these little pieces off, get it as flat as you can, because when you go over with your compound, there's gonna be a little dot in there, I could already tell. The compound is gonna stick to this right here, but these little pieces sticking out, they're always gonna give you a problem with your compound, or with your first coat. After that, they'll stick in. Try to clean it up a little bit. Okay, now that's the tape for the repair. So I don't want to mess with this corner, so it's gonna be like, come out like probably to right here. You're gonna bring it out past the repair with your compound, but I would rather do 3 coats or 4 coats of really thin compound than lay it on thick the first time. So this is 5-minute set compound. See, 5-minute set, but you gotta mix it yourself. And I think that's the best one to use. So I didn't bring my small blades. You got 3 different sides. So if you're using joint compound tape, you go like 1, then the next one you go a little bit bigger like this, then the next one you go all the way bigger and you're done like this. But since this is a really big area, basically I'm just gonna get as much as I can, as flat as I can, and then sand in between, and then do another coat. It's gonna be easier to mix with this, so I just brought this one to mix it with. So you got your little trowel right here. You're gonna put your powder in it, and then you're just gonna mix it to like a spreadable consistency. All right, so this is your, I need a small. This is your joint compound. You're gonna put a little bit of water in it at a time. You don't want it too milky. It'll absorb the water. You want a paste, a nice spreadable paste. I mix it around for a while to get all the clumps out. You don't want 0 clumps in here, 0 clumps. All right, I believe I got the consistency that I need. So it dries in 5 minutes. So start spreading it around. That's the first coat right there. I'm gonna clean up my mess right there. All this is gonna sand down because the wall's gonna get painted. But you see, you're coming all the way out. You're going past where your repair is gonna be. This is 5-minute set time, but if it's humid in there, I turn on the fan, got the door open, and I'm gonna keep mixing this around for my second coat. All right, it's drying, but that's a little bit wet there. Don't go ahead and go fast over it. I'm gonna do another coat, another skim coat over this, but all this is dry already. I'm waiting for these little pieces to dry. I'm gonna do another coat over it. I mean, you see how thin this is, you can see right through it. I'd rather do 3 coats, 4 coats than one really thick coat. But you got to keep going further and further in order to make it look invisible. I was sticking them in as they were drying, so now there's little divots that I'll be able to cover up instead of holes that I'll have to sand down. This is what I was telling you about, the little ends, that if you get those ends that flip up on you, that's what they look like right there. The rest is smooth, really good, but you're gonna have to have at least 3 coats to come further down to blend it with the rest of the wall. You don't want even a hint of that in your tray because it'll clump up and it'll be rolling around in here. All right, here goes my second coat. Going past where the last coat was. You gotta go past where the last. Not mix out, clean out, completely dilute with water, and then make another little thing for the whole thing. Now I got a stick sander, so I'm gonna use a stick sander to do this whole wall. You see, these are different sanding pads you could use. All different sanding pads. But for a big section like that, I don't want to spill that over. That's really dusty. Here's a big stick sander. I gotta put a new pad on it. That's a big stick sander. So you're able to cover a whole bunch of section with this right here. All right, so there's the big repair right there. It looks kind of crazy right now, but this is the second coat. There's professionals that only do 3 coats, but I want it perfect, so that's dripping right there. All right, I'm not gonna use the big sander right now. I'm gonna get a fresh sanding block. This is 150 grit. And I'm gonna knock all this down right here. Start smoothing it out a little bit. See where I'm at, see where I stand. This is where it gets dusty. I'm not bogging it down hard. I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just knocking down the high spot. All right, that's 2 coats. Let me step further back. I know it looks bigger than what you would have thought, but you have to blend it in with the wall. That's the only way you're gonna not see this line right here. Now, you see other drywall repairs and you can see the line in the wall, that's the joint tape, okay? Now, if I finish with this and use a thick nap, a really thick nap roller, you won't even tell. But I'm gonna go over another coat of this, maybe even one more skim coat. I got a little line in there. I got little stuff to fill in right here that if I sand, you won't be able to tell the difference, but I don't want any of this little bit to peek through. So that's the one line I got. I'm short, I know I gotta concentrate up there, but now I'm gonna use the big one and I'm gonna go over big pieces of the wall at once. All right, now I got the wide brush now. I'm mixing it really good with the wide brush. And I'm gonna try to get the whole center and everything. And all right, I'm gonna lightly stick sand all this when it's done. I'm gonna lightly stick sand it. And then my last coat is gonna be filling in any little holes that I can find. Any little holes that are in there, any little divots, that's gonna be my last coat, but this is exactly where I wanna be. You see on the outside, it's fading in to the rest of the wall. You won't even see that when it's painted. Okay, this next sand is gonna be with the stick sander, right? But I'm not gonna try to beat it all the way down. I feather the edges with the 150 grit sander, but the stick sander now is gonna make all this even in the middle. All this even in the middle, but I'm not going deep, so I'm just trying to smooth this even where you could barely see that. You could barely see the excess in there, you could barely see it, and I smooth it even. And then after that, all I'm doing is I'm not doing the whole thing anymore with the compound. I'm just doing the little pieces, the little specks that I have to fill in. The rest of it should be pretty even with this last sand. It should be where you need to be. Your last compound is going to be filling in any gapes, any holes or whatever before you do the final sand. Alright, this is a 150 grit sponge. This is a 150 grit pole sander. This is really good for the fine detail on the end and everything. But when you want a big straight line, the pole sander is best. Put it on there. And don't press too hard. And it cuts down. See how it's feathered? It's feathered all the way around. That's what you want. The two things that I gotta do And I just hit this one with my nail right here, this line right there. And I got a V right here. And then after that, it's done. Clean up this mess. I gotta let that dry a little bit more. You know, when it's all white, you know it's ready. So I gotta let it dry a little bit more, clean all this up. And it'll be drying as I'm cleaning up. And then one more, it's just gonna be right here, and right here. The little imperfections that you gotta do. You don't gotta do the whole thing anymore. All right, I didn't do a final coat yet, but it's 90 degrees outside, so it's real humid. So this is taking a lot longer to set. If you see the darker part, that's still wet, the darker part. So this is the V I gotta fill in, but I'm actually gonna try to sand it instead of fill it in. And then this right here, it's smooth. Yeah, that's good. You can feel it. If you feel a ridge, you know you gotta keep sanding. There's a line right there. A line right there. And then you can see a line. You don't feel it. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So after you paint this, you can feel the little high spots and low spots, but they're not bad. It's gonna appear as if it's just one piece of wall, but you have to go way above the line. Like, you remember the line I put in here for the self-stick thing? I mean, if you got a big hole in the wall, you can't use that. There's a different trick that I got on my YouTube video, but this right here, I'm gonna actually try to sand these in right here before I compound one more time. Get all this little stuff right there. Try to sand it in, and then I might be done. So, but with the humidity, you see it's still wet right in here. Keep dust buffers. Sand your sanding pad, because you might get a little piece of line stuck in here. You're gonna sand in here. But look, check this out. I didn't add anything else, and I got the little line out that was right in here. Now these are the next two lines that I gotta get out, and this is only 3 coats. 3 coats, and it's about done. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit and sand it a little bit more. It looks like a big thing on the wall, right? But if you paint it, you're not gonna see anything at all, anything different. But it is dusty. It is a big mess. It's still wet. I gotta let that dry a little more. There's people that can actually wet sand with a sponge. I'm not that person. There you are, Bob's your uncle. It looks like there's a big white patch in here. Smooth, super smooth all the way around. I finished it off with the, what is this, the 80 grit? The 80 grit to get that big deep groove I had in there. But now this is the 150 grit. Make sure there's nothing in there. And lightly just even everything out. Alright, so this isn't going to be painted right now, but there's a shower here. So that will absorb moisture. So they had a little bit of paint and primer here in this little jar. So I'm going to actually paint over this. I'm not going to pour this whole thing in my paint jar, but I do got a big nap roller. So I'm going to apply it with the brush, and then I'm going to roll over it. So I'm going to put some paper down here so I don't get anything on the floor. It is white. It is white, so I'm going to put it on with this. I don't want to try to spill anything, being as gentle, as gingerly as possible. Already spilled some, right? Already spilled some more. Right here, I shouldn't have used that paintbrush because I put lines in the wall. So you do need a thicker nap roller to get a lot of the imperfections. So I did go over with the roller as best as I can. But also, such a two-tone paint, you're going to need a good primer sealer to paint over the whole wall before you paint it, or a primer paint to paint the whole wall. So okay, so since they were going to use the shower, I painted it, but I should have just rolled it out. I knew that because you have the pattern of the nap. And when you brush, you have the pattern of the strokes. So it's going to need a thicker nap to go over it to get rid of those brush strokes. But it's all covered up. It's all done. I'm trying to get a picture of it now. But if not, this is how I repaired a buckshot wall. I cut it off last time.